Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. We come to you today on the back of I wouldn't call it a thrilling 1-0 win, but a 1-0 win nonetheless. Before we dive into our Bournemouth analysis, let's see who we've got on the show today. We welcome Joe. Joe, my friend, how are you keeping?
Hello, mate. Yeah, not too bad. As you say, it wasn't a thrilling game, but we got there in the end. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yep, not feeling too bad. Had a bit of a kind of day yesterday, but powering through. Thank you for asking. Very kind, very kind. We also welcome Kurtis. Now, Kurtis, I know that you too have been feeling a bit, so I hope you're feeling better.
I'm getting there. Yesterday's result definitely helped with the morale anyway, not the general sickness, because I still feel like death. But glad to be here, obviously, on the pod to talk about another win under De Zerbi's goals.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. A win always makes you feel just a little bit better, We also welcome Chloe. Chloe, my friend, how are you doing?
We're all going on a European tour, so pretty damn brilliant.
Ooh, yeah, we are. Just to completely digress, it was fantastic yesterday. I think it was Seagulls Travel sent a tweet out saying they were preparing and they were getting things ready just in case. And they said about like never in their wildest dreams did they ever imagine a day where that would be a thing. It's getting closer and it's becoming more and more of a case of when, not if.
I just don't want to speak it into just in case it doesn't happen, and I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm just never gonna say it until the end of the season, and then I'm gonna scream it. So,
well, I saw a Spurs fan tweet out that they were worried that Brighton might pip them to fourth, and I was just like, that doesn't even. I'm not even computing that at the moment. I'm just enjoying the ride, as it were. So yeah, what an exciting time it is to be an Albion fan, because yesterday's game is the sort of game that in past seasons we would have either lost or we would have just about scraped a draw. Even at the beginning of De Zerbi's tenure, when you think about Forest, getting that 0-0 draw, but it really showed a lot of team spirit yesterday to come and get a win. And let's dive into our analysis of that game then. I mean, to start things off, it's worth mentioning here that it was Lewis Dunk's 400th league game. I think 3 of those were whilst he was on loan at Bristol City back in the day, Joe. But, Lewis Dunk has been an absolute stalwart in this Brighton team. He's been our captain now, and he's done such a fantastic job. I would probably argue that he is the best to ever pull on the stripes. What have you made of Lewis Dunk's career as a Brighton and Hove Albion player?
Considering he's been with us at all sorts of different levels during his career, he started out as a youngster in League One last season at the Withdean, and then, got a few appearances in the first couple of seasons at the Amex, and we always talk about who is the greatest of all time, and you always talk about, Wardy obviously is up there. But you talk about players that have sort of only played for us at one level. The fact that Lewis Dunk has been with us on this journey for the last, 13, 14 years, he has to be, very much in contention. I know obviously people will have their different reasons as to why they think other players might be the best of all time to pull on the stripes, and they're well within their rights to think that. But Lewis Dunk, for me, certainly in the time that I've been supporting the Albion, has to be. And 400 appearances. Like, I saw a tweet earlier, if there's one player that deserves to play European football next season, it's Lewis Dunk. So how proud we are to have a captain like him. And yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, and I mean, Kurtis, I think the last couple of games, Dunkey has been absolutely superb, really back to his best after a bit of a wobble early in the season and a bit of iffy form last season. What have you made of Dunk since Roberto De Zerbi has come in?
He's just a true leader. He's just always there, and he's always making sure everyone's in check and doing what they need to be doing. And I couldn't agree more with what Joe was saying. Like, I can't think of anyone more in that team who deserves it more than him. I'll be like a proud dad. I really would. Us at Frankfurt or whatever, I'd be like, there he is, Lewis Dunk. Oh my god. So I just hope this continues, and I hope he can continue just leading us to Europe.
Yeah, and of all the people to lead us to Europe, a local lad, it would just be a dream. Another local lad, Chloe, that made a special appearance yesterday was Solly March. It was his 150th. I don't know if it was a league game or a top flight game, but Solly March hitting another milestone. Again, another player that under De Zerbi has been absolutely on fire. What have you made of March under Roberto De Zerbi?
He's just been on a different level. Yeah, I know he said De Zerbi put his arm around him and told him he was a good player and that's what he needed. And yeah, it's just shown he's been so much better. I think for me personally, his lack of assists and goals was a bit of a concern for me. And I was starting to question him a little bit, but recently his form has just been so good, and I hope it continues because you know, he is a local lad and he seems like a nice bloke. And yeah, he's been really good recently. So
Joe, it just shows you what Roberto De Zerbi's gone on to do with this team. I know we talk about manipulated stats, but Brighton, I think they're the third highest scoring team after Manchester City and Arsenal since Roberto De Zerbi coming in. I mean, he's got players like Solly March, who, as Chloe rightfully says, lack of goals, lack of assists over his time under Graham Potter and Chrissy Hughton, perhaps in the Premier League, and he's got him just firing on all cylinders. I mean, it's just been revolutionary, hasn't it, the way we've been playing under De Zerbi?
Yeah, it just feels like some chains have been removed from our players, and we've got this free reign to just attack and just have no fear. And it's the mentality that De Zerbi's brought in. It's the mentality that I've seen a lot of Sassuolo fans, a lot of Shakhtar fans, a lot of journalists that have followed De Zerbi's career saying that he's just continued with. And, he always says it's such an honor for him to be coaching this group of players, and it's a group of players that have bought into his system so well. And it's credit to our players again. People say that Graham Potter made us. Absolutely not. It's our players that made us. It's Tony Bloom that's made us. It's Roberto De Zerbi that's going to complete us. And I'm so excited for the next couple of years as a Brighton fan, and just pray that we can keep hold of him, because we're going to achieve something really special. And I've got this feeling within me that is just growing and growing and growing. And it's like, what can we achieve with this manager? So yeah, so delighted to have him. And the fact that we're scoring goals for fun, scoring goals in games that we normally would, as you mentioned at the start, Tom, probably would have lost that last season or drawn it. Especially against Bournemouth, a bit of a bogey team for us. I won't mention the awful result a couple of years ago. But yeah, really, really good.
Let's actually talk about the game then, shall we? Kurtis, some changes into the starting 11. We saw from the Cup, Sanchez was a given coming back in. Lamptey kept his place, as did Billy Gilmore. No, sorry, Billy Gilmore started after coming on against Liverpool in the Cup. And another name to start was Dennis Undav. We'll talk a little bit more about his impact on the game in just a little while. But what did you make of the starting 11? Any surprises? I mean, one of the perhaps ones that people will talk about was the Caicedo being on the bench. But do you think that was the right call given the recent goings on?
Probably a safe bet. I was pretty happy with the squad when I saw it. I thought, oh, this is a bit different. But in our DZ we trust and all that. Yeah, I mean, I was just happy to see people like Gilmore get a start, because he clearly is a very good player. I thought he had a really good first half. And we'll talk about Dennis. I know you said that, but he really impressed me. And so, yeah, I was just happy to see some people get the start that they deserved ultimately.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Dennis Undav's first start in the Premier League, and I think it was Billy Gilmore's first or his second. So, two players that haven't really featured as starters under De Zerbi getting their chance. And I thought, as we say, we'll discuss it in a bit more detail in a bit, but I thought they played relatively well. At first glance, Chloe, it seemed like we might be setting up in a 4-4-2, just, names on a team sheet and stuff. But the early indication to me watching it, I suppose, on a screen, and a small screen at that, was that we were playing a back three. What did it look like in the stands?
Yeah, it was a bit strange. It seemed sort of like Estupina was quite far back, and so was Matoma. He looked almost like he was sort of playing as a left wing back. I'm not sure if that's the case or if he just wasn't going forward as much. But yeah, and Lamptey obviously was coming really far forward. He looked so dangerous on the right. And yeah, that is what it looked like, a back three. But I'm not sure who was actually in that back three. I suppose it'd be Estupiñán, Dunk, and Veltman.
It was almost like harping back to the days under Graham Potter, wasn't it, Joe? Where we'd have like Cucurella on the left with the license to bomb on forward. What did you make of like that, the early exchanges? I mean, as Chloe sort of alluded to, Mitoma seemed a bit, well, quite far back in the opening part of the first half. Didn't really get him on the ball as much as we'd like, perhaps. What did you make of sort of like the tactical switch we'd seen from the normal 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, it was one that I expected, obviously, and when I didn't see Caicedo's name in the starting 11, and obviously with having McAllister out suspended, I expected De Zerbi to do something different like he did against Liverpool in the Cup. As you say, when the team sheets came out, I thought it was going to be the 4-4-2. And I just don't. I think De Zerbi had to sort of think on his feet with the midfield that we had as well. I thought Pascal Gross, for as good as he is, he gets everywhere. But I think in a midfield too, that can sort of jeopardize you a little bit. And Billy Gilmore for me was having to do sort of 3 or 4 different jobs. And whilst he got caught out a few times, I thought he handled that job role really well. Tarek Lamptey going forward, as Chloe said, looked really dangerous. That sort of interchange with Solly March. And I think Tarek Lamptey had the license to go forward because he's got Veltman further back and he's got Solly March, who's played wing back before as well. So I wasn't overly upset with the setup, and especially against the Bournemouth team who were just ridiculously hard to break down. Just anti-football, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And yeah, it was just a really strange game. Just like trying to get into our flow of things, we just couldn't quite do it. But I'm glad we've got De Zerbi, who's got that tactical nous to change things, which he did do.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I'm going to jump on one of those points you just mentioned there, Joe, about Tarek and March. Again, this is from the perspective of someone who's watching on a screen, so completely different. I appreciate it from someone who sat in the stands. But I almost felt like, as good as Tarek was in the first half, driving the ball forward and getting us forward, I almost felt like he was getting in Solly's way a little bit, almost like he was occupying the space that Solly would normally try and find. And that meant that Solly had to become more central, which isn't really where we want Solly playing. Do you think that Tarek was given that role as a free roaming right wing back instead of just a standard right back, as it were, just to sort of stretch that play? Because as you rightfully mentioned there, Bournemouth sat in a very low block, and teams like that, they're very difficult to break down.
Yeah, I think it's a partnership that maybe just needs a bit more understanding. We haven't seen Solly and Tarek start together that much. If I remember rightly, we see Estupiñán and Mitoma doing absolute bits on the left-hand side. They've got their understanding down to a T. And I think if we see more of Tarek and Solly, that understanding is only going to grow, and they're going to get each other into really dangerous positions and almost have like a kinetic connection where they know where each other are going to be and they don't get in each other's way. I think you're right, Tom. I think Tarek was sort of not his fault by any means, but sort of getting into those opportunities, and Solly was sort of where do I go? But as I say, hopefully it's something that can develop over time and we can see a really dangerous right-hand side.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not trying to slate Lamptey, because as Chloe rightfully says, he was one of our most dangerous players in the first half. It was just one of those things where I was a bit like, oh, that, as you say, Joe, perhaps that partnership just needs work. And it was all interesting that maybe that wouldn't have happened if we'd set up with a midfield 3, Kurtis, of our usual guys, McAllister, Caicedo. Joe mentioned about Pascal Gross and Billy Gilmore in the middle there. Now, neither of them are particularly, get into them tackling sort of centre midfielders, but they did all right, didn't they? I mean, Billy Gilmore, Pascal Gross, very intelligent guys, fantastic with the ball at the feet, pinging out passes, but they coped okay considering they don't perhaps have those attributes of being hard tacklers.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal Gross is Pascal Gross. He's just a consummate professional. He just does what he has to do and doesn't make a big fuss about it. And I think it's, I think, there's some people I saw that gave Gilmore, a lot of slack. And, considering this is like his first or second start or something like that, just cut him some slack, man. Just cut him some slack. I can imagine that we're going to see him playing, a fair amount more going forward, with the cup still in that, obviously. So that's fun. So he could feature in there, and I think he will only get better and better. And I'm excited to see more of him. So yeah.
For me, Gilmore is the long-term Adam Lallana sort of replacement, as it were. He's still a young lad. I think he's got the similar sort of attributes as the Adam Lallana, that he can thread those passes, sees the game quite intelligently. Obviously, Pascal's, 31, 32. Adam Lallana, 34, 35. So for me, Billy Gilmore is that sort of long-term replacement. He's
Yeah, and
definitely
he
got
scored as well, didn't he? That lovely strike that just cruised
Yeah,
out to
really
the
came
left.
close in the second half. And I think you can hear it in the replays, and you could hear it while watching it, the roar of the crowd thinking that he had scored because he hit the
You
side net.
literally saw the whole West Stand on their feet, and like some people starting to celebrate. I'm sure, Chloe, you probably thought it was in because you're sort of more towards the West Stand side, aren't you? So my perspective on it was I knew it had missed, but yeah, the whole stand were like up.
Yeah, it was a really frustrating game. And Chloe, I mean, Bournemouth I think they've got the worst away record in the division. They've got the worst defense in the division. Do you think that the only way that they could realistically get anything out of the game yesterday was to sit in that low block? I mean, historically, especially under Graham Potter, we've always very much struggled against those sort of teams. So, like, I don't know, say it's halftime. What were your thoughts, thinking, are we actually going to be able to break these guys down?
Yeah, I was sort of thinking it was going to be another sort of typical Brighton 0-0 draw against a team, we probably should be beating. I thought we were just not going to be able to break them down. I'm not too sure why they do play like that, because they did look dangerous when they went forward a couple of times. You know, and I really want to see them get relegated, because I can't stand teams that play like that, to be honest. It's not nice to watch for us or their fans. And yeah, I don't like it at all.
Tell us
No.
what you really feel, Chloe, about Bournemouth.
Would you say, Chloe, that's the worst away team we've seen this season? Because for me, it's either Bournemouth or Forest.
Yeah, I would definitely say them or Forest. They were both very poor. I'm going to go Bournemouth just because we managed to score against them.
I'd say
Yeah.
Liverpool were the worst, honestly.
No, I mean like
They would.
anti-football style.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
Because Forest, I think Bournemouth and Forest, very similar sort of situation. They just sat back, tried to hit us on the counter, and Chloe's right. They did give us a couple of scares. We saw, I think Lerma was it, the cutback. He probably should have done a lot better. Stupinian had to put in an absolutely fantastic block in the second half. So, Joe, let's talk about that block. I know we're sort of bouncing around, but because it was just one of those games and we're sort of talking about those counter-attacks from Bournemouth at the moment, let's talk about Purvis then, because I thought he had a fantastic game yesterday. And there was a few moments where some fans said he was lucky to not give away a penalty, which we'll discuss in a second. But that block, Joe, how fantastic was that? Brighton get caught out on the break, Purvis busting a lung. Just how good was it?
Yeah. I already had my head in my hands, my scarf over my face. I resigned myself to the fact that Bournemouth were going to score and they were going to run out 1-0 winners in a game where they just absolutely should not have won. And then I heard an absolute roar from the North Stand, and saw Robert Sanchez running over to Purvis and grabbing his head and almost shook it off his shoulders. So yeah, I thought Purvis was absolutely fantastic yesterday. Except for that one moment, obviously, where it's the question: was it a penalty? Was it not? But yeah, other than that, I just thought so professional. Had to be so defensively astute in that back three when it was the back three, and he can just do so many different roles so well. He gets forward so well. He's so athletic, so strong, and he even had a I think, one shot and some really good crosses. So we've got a complete player there, for sure. And it took him a while to get to grips with the Premier League, and I knew it would take him a while. But now we're looking at some fantastic rewards for staying patient with him. And yeah, fantastic performance yesterday.
Yeah, really was. I mean, Curtis, let's talk about those two penalty shouts then. One in the first half where he goes shoulder to shoulder with the Bournemouth player who goes down. For me, that wasn't a foul. It was very similar to Haaland on Webster. Two players come together. I mean, the one criticism would be that, Purvis doesn't look to play the ball. But when we've seen these things not given, it sort of, at least it was consistent in that regard. And then there was the handball where the Bournemouth player does cross it. It does hit his hand, but thankfully nothing was given, which made me very happy because I think Veltman, was completely just shoved off the ball in the build up to that play. But in regards to those two penalty shouts, did we get away with one there?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe the first one, maybe. I feel like if that was if we were playing City or someone like that, that might have been given. But I suppose we were like, I don't think it was a foul personally, but there we go. And the second one is Ham wasn't in a natural position. He wasn't doing this or whatever. So yeah, they were what they were, and we weathered the storm in that sort of situation. So.
Yeah, we did. So let's talk about the Brighton chances then, because especially in the first half, there were quite a few. And Chloe, one of those, or three of those, came to Dennis Undav getting his first Premier League start. Some really poor passing out from the back from the Bournemouth keeper, falls to Undav, who has 3 bites of the cherry. Unfortunately, the first shot is blocked quite well by the Bournemouth defender. The second one, excellent save. And then the third hits the post. What did you make of Dennis's chances there?
Yeah, that was quite unfortunate. I thought we'd scored when I saw the sort of position he was in. I don't know if he maybe should have taken a shot a bit sooner. But yeah, I think he was just a bit unlucky with the player blocking it, and then a good save was made, and then hitting the post. I was just thinking at that point, it's not going to be our day today, is it? It's going to be one of them. But yeah, I thought he had a good game. Other than that, so yeah.
Yeah, I thought his link-up play especially was absolutely excellent, Joe. Chloe's right. I mean, it was really unfortunate. He perhaps could have taken the first shot a bit earlier because he cuts in on his weaker foot. And then, as we say, block, save, post. Especially the post was from a tight angle. But a lot of fans might not be able to look past those 3 chances, and they might, completely ignore the rest of the game. Because I think when you look at the 2 strikers we had on the pitch, Undav and Welbeck, for me, Undav played a much, much better game. What did you make of his performance?
Are you saying that Brighton fans are writing a player off just because they're not scoring a goal? That's never happened before, has it? I thought Undav was absolutely fantastic. He worked so well with Welbeck in the front two. I did worry about him when Welbeck went off and he was to be the sole striker, whether he could still hold the ball up that well. But he continued to impress me. He gets himself about, gets himself into really good positions. A fantastic ball through to Welbeck as well for Welbeck's chance that literally came off the bottom of his studs. People forget about that. They focus on obviously the negative thing that happened. Maybe, yes, he should have got his shot away sooner, but I think the ball comes to him and he's surprised. I don't think he expects the goalkeeper to I don't think he expects to intercept that. So just really, I was gutted for him. Obviously, we know he's been through a tough time. We know that he's sort of fallen out of favour. He's had a lot of criticism thrown his way. I've seen people say he's not even a League One striker. I've seen people say that we should be selling him. We should be, loaning him to League Two. It's just ridiculous. This is a guy that really hasn't had that much of a run. When he has come on, I think he's been so professional and worked so hard. People forget the role that he had in the goal against Liverpool in the Cup, backing into the defender like that. it's just so intelligent. And you've got a player like that people are just going to write off just because he doesn't score a goal. It just reminds me of the people that slated Solly March just because he had no end product, when they forget about what he does in the whole game that affects everything. And again, people will go, "Oh yeah, but he's not scoring." It will come. Just be patient.
Chloe, who does this remind you of? This conversation.
Mopay.
Yeah. Well,
It's
just
good general play, but if you miss a chance, like every striker probably bar Haaland does, you're not good enough, I'm afraid.
And talking of Neil Maupay, it was hilarious watching him wind up Arsenal yesterday. I very much enjoyed that.
Absolutely fantastic. When he got thrown to the ground by Zinchenko and then he was just pointing at him, like, what is this guy doing? It's brilliant.
I was like, there he is, the Le Petit Poo House. I was like, bless him.
C'est magnifique. Yeah, Undav, I thought he had a fantastic game yesterday. Unfortunately, didn't get the goals away. But Kurtis, Welbeck was also guilty of missing a few glorious opportunities. Joe mentioned there about the fantastic cross that Undav put in that Welbeck just couldn't quite get his foot to. He had a free header in the box that was straight at the goalkeeper, and then in the second half he blazed one over. You mentioned yesterday that he got iced up when he got taken off yesterday. Do you think that's precautionary, or do you think we're in for another Welbeck layoff?
I hope it's precautionary, because Welbeck's also one of those guys that's very intelligent. He's always doing something, but again, people only concentrate on the fact that he's not scoring goals, and that's fine. If you want to do that, then that's fine. But you're not going to enjoy football very much if you're only there for the goals. I'm just saying. But either way, I do want to just touch on Dennis a little bit. I'm a big fan of his, and I've been a big fan of his for a while, and I think he's fantastic. I don't know if you guys saw his interview after the game. He came across as so professional, just saying how he had the option to go out and on loan and stuff, but he wanted to stay and fight for his place and stay with the team. And I thought, that's amazing. He didn't have to do that. He could have gone somewhere and got more regular first team football, but he wants to stay with us. He wants to work with us, and I think that's fantastic. And I hope we get to see more of him. But in regards to Welbeck, obviously should be doing a little bit better on those chances. Fine, I'll give you that. But on another day, he probably would have tapped those in. So it's just part of the draw. Sometimes we get the luck, sometimes we don't. That's Brighton.
Are you telling me footballers miss chances? Wow.
I find it really funny how Welbeck scored an absolute worldie against Liverpool, and then he gets a free header and he puts it straight at the keeper. It's just one of those where you're just like, how can you go from producing that and like the goal against Leeds, absolutely like
but the way I see it is when we see it
straight at the goalkeeper.
Like when we see it on the screen, for some reason it feels like the path from, say, like the winger who's crossing in, whatever, that feels like 5 minutes long, right? But in that instant, instant second, you have to make a split second decision of how you're going to shoot this relatively small thing into this very large thing, and you think, oh, this person's definitely got this. Why wouldn't they have got this? That's massive, and I'm sure that's so bloody hard. All that pressure, in that instant split second to score that goal must be so hard.
I think what people have to remember is they're not thinking, I'm going to head this at the goalkeeper. I'm going to miss this chance just to spite Jeff in row Z in the North Stand.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah.
God damn it, Jeff.
There's probably someone waffling. Yeah, sorry about the waffling. I've had a lot of cough medicine, so yeah.
Physics with Kurtis Friend. Join us next time. Yeah. So yeah, but as Chloe's already alluded to, it just seemed like one of those days we were having all these chances, and in the end, it took the kids coming on. I mean, Chloe, in the second half, we had Jeremy Sarmiento came on, and I thought his input was fantastic. Buonanotte came on for his debut, or as Aaron is calling him, Argentinian Dave, and Ciso came on, and these young guys absolutely. They were there on the pitch. They were creating chances, I mean, how fantastic is it to see all these young players on the pitch at the end of the game? Because I mean, apparently, by not selling Caicedo to Arsenal, young players aren't going to want to come to us. But if I was a young player, I would be looking at more like, oh, they've ended the game with about 6 players under the age of 22 on the pitch. What did you make of the young guns' input towards the end?
Yeah, they were good. Sarmiento obviously got the assist for the goal, and even other than that, he looked fantastic. I can't lie, I didn't notice the new guy much, the Argentinian one. I can't remember. I know his name means good night in Italian, but I don't know how you say that. So, but yeah, it's so nice to see so many young players playing for us, and yeah, it's good because that means they can be with us for a while. They're not just going to retire next season. And yeah, I think we're really good at bringing young players through. And it's nice to see some of the sort of academy youngsters on the bench as well. Even though they don't necessarily come on, but obviously Ferguson, he's injured at the moment, but it's really good to see him as well, coming through our ranks. And yeah, it's just really nice to see.
Maybe bringing Argentinian Dave on was De Zerbi's way of saying good night to Bournemouth. No? Okay, I'll see myself out.
I think on the bench, I also had a De La Fire, and then is it Moran as well as Enciso, Sarmiento, Buonanotte. So, some really fantastic, exciting youngsters on the bench. And I'm sure, De Zerbi seems to really rate Buonanotte very highly. Obviously, Tevez said he was the best Argentinian player he's seen since Lionel Messi. So he's obviously got a lot of people hold him in very high regard. And I'm sure his time will come. Hopefully we'll see more of him in the cup. But it's very interesting, Joe, that this we haven't loaned him out. We haven't bedded him in the 23s. He's come back from Argentina after suffering an injury in their under 23 squad, I believe. And he's straight into the first team. And De Zerbi said, in the pre-match press conference, he's going to come on and give us like 15, 20 minutes. How refreshing is that?
Yeah, first of all, with regards to Tevez comments about the best since Lionel Messi, clearly never seen Alexis McAllister, just saying. But no, it's, if you're good enough, you're most definitely old enough. There is a cat on my screen. Yeah. So I think it's brilliant. As Chloe said, it's just so good to see our recruitment doing so well. And as you said, Tom, it's so good to see that young players are going to look at Brighton Hove Albion and say, I will have a chance there. These fickle top 6 fans that think we're holding Moises Caicedo hostage in some crack den somewhere in Portslade are just absolutely ridiculous.
Sorry, people from Portslade, we do not think that all of Portslade is a crack den. Just going to put that out there.
Well, I could have said somewhere else, but I didn't want to. But yeah, it's I've thrown myself off, Tom.
Yeah, disclaimer.
Sorry, Portslade, love you.
Portslade, was it Portslade? Unfortunately,
yeah, that's Michael McIntyre's quote, though, not me.
Disclaimer: Michael McIntyre thinks that, we do not. Talking of one of the youngsters, as Chloe has alluded to, Kurtis, it was Jeremy Sarmiento that helped finally break the deadlock at around 87 minutes. The ball finds its way out wide to Jeremy Sarmiento. He puts in a delightful cross, and who should rise highest? The man of the moment, KAORU MITOMA, who scored a really good header. He's moving backwards. It was just superb, and the ball finds the back of the net. Finally, after 87 minutes, there's finally a breakthrough. How excited were you that our boy Mitoma can once again be the difference?
I mean, I don't know what more we can say about him at this point. He's just so unbelievably good. When it happened, I just had a massive coughing fit, so I couldn't really celebrate it that much. But I was like, yeah, bah, yeah, bah. But yeah, it was so amazing. Like you said, that took a lot of skill, especially because he's not, a tall guy or anything. But to get above everybody else and just, tap that home, wonderful. And an excellent assist from Jeremy, who I think is generally kind of an overlooked player for us. I feel like he does a lot as well. He's hungry, he's got a lot of heart, and we saw that yesterday. And but the only thing I worry about with KAORU MITOMA is one day he's going to run so much celebrating, he's going to injure himself because he's always falling over or something like that. So, KAORU, I know you watch. Be careful.
Yeah, he gets mobbed quite a bit, and it was fantastic, Chloe, to see the players celebrating on the pitch. What was it like in the stands? Last minute winner. They're becoming a bit of a habit of Mitoma's.
Yeah, it was just everyone was ecstatic. I find it's really nice that our players actually like look so happy when they score. So many times when you see games on the telly and then the players are just so like, but our players just always look so happy, and it was nice to see Caicedo smiling as well after everything that happened in the transfer window. And yeah, it was just buzzing, and we actually started singing a little bit more. The atmosphere yesterday wasn't great, but I think once we scored, everyone was sort of on their feet, and yeah, it was pretty brilliant.
Chloe, you got to remember, Caicedo was literally forced to smile. There was a sniper on top of the West Stand. If he didn't smile, he would have been shot right there and then. So
yeah, we're keeping him hostage, aren't we? Apparently, I mean, it's to be fair in regards to like the atmosphere. I mean, I don't blame Brighton fans, because if I was watching Brighton try and play Bournemouth, who were very content just to put 11 men behind the ball, roll around on the floor, waste time, and then a referee that was happy to let that happen, I wouldn't be particularly happy either. But I think we got our just rewards, Joe. And as you say, like, Moises Caicedo, he looked pretty happy, didn't he, considering we're holding him hostage?
Yeah, I won't mention Port Slade again. That got me in trouble last time. With regards to referee, goodness me. Every single chance he had to stop the game, whistle, whistle, whistle. Bournemouth done exactly the same that we would do. They wouldn't get a yellow card. We would. There was a clear push on Joel Veltman, not given. Chance for Bournemouth. That could have ended the game. Incompetence upon incompetence. And with the Estupinian push that everyone's talking about, you worry that officials are going to be that ridiculous that they would give that. You just don't know what refereeing performance or what officiating performance you're going to get in the Premier League anymore, and it's scary because it could just change the course of your season within seconds. It has to, yeah. I just don't get how they're allowed to referee it at these levels, and it's clear to see why our referees aren't, the first choices for European games or World Cup games and things like that. So. I'm sure there has to be some kind of overhaul somewhere.
I mean, Cam wasn't very impressed. She put on our group chat about how poor Pawson was. And I can see the point, as you rightfully point out, the push on Joel Veltman in the build up to that cross that hit Purvis's hand. It would have been such sod's law if that had been given. And I would have been absolutely fuming. But, it was one of those things where it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a spectacular performance. It wasn't quintessentially Roberto De Zerbi, but we won. And as I said at the top of the show, it's a game that we probably wouldn't have won a season ago. So there you have it. Now let's, even if it was a scrappy performance, we still got to give our man of the match, player that has stood out for you. So Kurtis, I'm going to come to you first, my friend. Who did you pick out as your man of the match in that rather scrappy affair with Bournemouth?
Kind of a tricky one. I think it'd be kind of obvious to give it to MITOMA, but I'm going to give it. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say about MITOMA. I thought MITOMA, and Roberto De Zerbi said this after the game as well. I don't think MITOMA had a particularly fantastic game. Don't get me wrong. He was the match winner and the game changer, 100%. And it's like De Zerbi said, you can't sub him off. But to be honest, he was quite quiet. And I do think that was because, as Chloe alluded to earlier, he was playing quite far back. And then when he did push forward, Bournemouth were doubling up on him. So that was my...
Well, I was going to say, I would have to give it to Purvis, I think, for me. I thought he had a really, really excellent game. That amazing block to save us 3 points. I I think, and he was just everywhere. Made a ton of really good crosses, and he's just getting better and better. And yeah, definitely my man of the match.
No arguments there. Chloe, who was your man of the match, please?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Purvis. He was fantastic, and yeah, that block was as good as a goal, really, because it stopped us conceding.
100%, 100%. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to make it a hat trick for Purvis Estupiñán. I've already said my bit on him, but just an all-round really professional performance.
And I'm going to make it full house because, yeah, Purvis was my man of the match as well. Honourable mentions to Dennis Undav, who I thought had a really good first half with his link-up play, and also Lewis Dunk, who I thought had a quietly understated game, but went about his business with a minimum of fuss.
I also thought Veltman had a good game. I thought just Veltman. He's just constantly quite good, I think so.
It was one of those games where we didn't look fantastic, but we didn't look terrible. And we just went about our business and we got the result we needed to in the end. And I'll say it one more time. It was a game that not that long ago, we probably would have only got a draw or we could have lost. So I think for me, that shows a mentality shift, a shift in mentality and a shift in belief. And I think that a lot of that is down to Roberto De Zerbi. I think we were starting to see that more towards the end of Potter's tenure, but Roberto De Zerbi seems to have ramped it up even more so. So we can't end the episode without talking about the next game, which is against that lot from up the road. It's going to be an interesting game. There are two things I want to ask, guys, in terms of that lot and the game against that lot. And my first one is I'm going to make a statement. I want you to tell me if you agree. If Ferguson is injured or can't start, I would start Dennis Undav over Danny Welbeck. Thoughts? Joe, you first.
That's what you're getting from me.
I like it, Joe. Not on the fence at all.
No, I really don't know. Because obviously we get Alexis back. Caicedo for me has to start. The system will be very much what we're used to, the 4-2-3-1. Do I put that pressure on Dennis to lead the line against Crystal Palace? I'm not taking anything away from Dennis at all, but I think Welbeck has that experience and Premier League know-how to get us through the game. So for me, I think I would start Danny Welbeck. Again, nothing against Dennis Undav.
Interesting. Another one, Kurtis, for me is, as Adam Lallana is injured, I would also be tempted to start Jeremy Sarmiento in that number 10 role. I know he played there against... team escapes me. But I think he's played quite well recently. He's got a couple of assists in his last few appearances. So for me, that warrants a start. And obviously he is normally a wide player, but with the form of March and Mitoma, he's not going to unseat either of those. So I would also be tempted to start Jeremy Sarmiento. Who would make your starting 11?
That's interesting. I don't know. It depends on the Welbeck thing, because if it's like an injury, and Ferguson's still not fit, I mean, we'll have to. I mean, probably play Undav unless we try something else. But I think if Welbeck was fit, I think maybe potentially him over Undav as well. As much as I am, I would like to see Undav start again, but I don't know. This one is a big game. This is a big game. This is a very big game. And I think if we win this game, I feel like this will really help cement a lot of belief in a lot of people. Like this is like the high pressure game. But Sarmiento over Webster, absolutely, I'm fine with that. This just because
over Webster.
Is that what you said? Sorry, what did you say?
I said I'd play Sarmiento because Lallana is still injured. I wouldn't play Sarmiento at centre back.
Sorry, as I said, the cough medicine. Yeah, absolutely, I would. Yeah.
To be fair, they're both called Adam, so I'll give you that.
Get off my back, old man. I totally would. No.
I was supporting you there.
No, I'm talking to Tom, Joe.
Me. God, I'm only 33.
No, but yeah, I think it would be good to have that speed through there as well, because Palace have got, they've got a lot of good, fast players. I feel like it would be good to counteract that with our own. So,
how are you feeling ahead of the game against that lot, Chloe? You confident? We've just played one of our bogey teams and we've managed to get a win. Palace, their form at the moment isn't great. Ours is, I think, one of the best in the league, if not the best. Dare I say it? Are you confident?
No, I'm never confident. I hate playing Palace so much because it's just, I really, 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 really don't want to lose. And I'm just so nervous every time. We should beat them, really. We play how we can play. There's no reason we can't beat them quite convincingly. But it's just, I'm just so nervous because it's Palace, and I don't want to lose.
I get you. It is going to be a tough game. As I say, our second bogey team in a row. But I genuinely think that Roberto De Zerbi has got this team in a different headspace mentally. And I think it was Joel Veltman who came out and said that they're playing almost every game like a cup final now because they're really pushing for like this European football. And I genuinely think that, as you say, Kurtis, if we can win this, I think then that belief will start really sort of spreading. So let's hope that we can get a win. Let us know your thoughts down below in regards to who you think starts. Would you start Tariq Lamptey at right back, or would you perhaps be tempted to play Joel Veltman? Who would you start in the middle? Caicedo, does he get his first start after his January transfer request? Ooh. And Alexis McAllister surely has to be back in the squad.
Or would you start Sarmiento as a centre-back? Just let us know in the comments.
Well, if you want to confuse Palace, start Jeremy Sarmiento as a centre-back. Let us know your thoughts down below. Also, let us know your score predictions. And now I'm going to come to the scores on the doors. Joe, score prediction, please, for the Palace game.
Okay. Crystal Palace, 0. Brighton and Hove Albion, 5. That's a legitimate prediction.
Damn. Kurtis, do you share Joe's optimism?
Joseph, my word. God. Hold on, I think Croydon and Port Slade are at the door. I've got to be quick here. No, I'm confident. I'm always confident. I go into every game being as confident as I can until, I see how bad we play sometimes. But 3-1 win. That's what I'm going to say.
Decent. And Chloe, score prediction, please.
I hope Joe's is right, but I'm just going to go 2-0.
I like it. We've all gone for a win. I too am going to go for a win. I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory against that lot from up the road. But we shall have to wait and see what happens. As always, the game is played on grass, not paper. And the form table tells you that this should be a relatively easy win for Brighton. But we always know that's never the case against Crystal Palace. So I look forward to dissecting that game with you guys. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content if you haven't done so already. And we'll see you next time. Take care.